Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so glad that you are here. Today, we're going to explore something simple but powerful: how to stop second guessing yourself and begin trusting your intuition in a grounded way. And take note, this isn't going to just be theoretical. I can't talk. I just had some very cold water and I feel like my tongue is numb. This is going to be experiential. We are going to walk through it, and I'm going to walk you through a guided practice that I use daily. Today, we're not going to just take a look at how to do it, but why it works. So, if you can, grab something to write with, take notes. This is a lot of important, wonderful, fun stuff I'm sharing with you. And we're going to take some time to begin arriving in the body. And I'm going to share my slides with you. All right, get this up so you can see, and we begin. All right, we begin by taking a moment to simply arrive and become fully present. I invite you, you can place a hand on a heart, on your stomach, and take a deep, slow, steady breath in through your nose. And then I'm going to invite you to gently exhale through the nose. Again, take a slow, deep inhale and a soft exhale. There's nowhere to go right now, nowhere to be, nothing to perform, nothing to figure out. This is a time for you to connect to your intuition, to strengthen it, and to simply arrive. You can have eyes opened or closed. And I invite you to start noticing the sounds around you. Maybe outside the room you're in. Maybe you hear cars, footsteps, chatter. Allow yourself to gently name them in your mind. And then think of those things as moving and passing through your awareness, just like clouds passing through the sky. And notice the sounds of the room that you're inside. Maybe the hum of the fan of the computer. Maybe something else, the vent. Allow yourself to label them. No need to analyze them. Just notice. Now bring your awareness to the temperature of the air against your skin. Is it warm? Is it cool? Are you comfortable? Notice the subtle sensation of the air touching your face and hands, the way your clothes confirm and conform to the curves and angles of your body. Bring awareness to the weight of your body. Feel your thighs settle into the chair. Feel your feet resting on the floor. Let gravity hold you. Nothing needs to change, just notice. Now bring your attention to your breath. Feel the coolness of the inhale at the tip of your nose and the slight warmth of the exhale. Follow the path of the breath as it moves in, down the throat and into the heart space. As you breathe into the heart, imagine a small softening there. No forcing, just allowing. And take one more slow breath in. A gentle exhale. You're here. You're grounded. You're present. Welcome. So before we jump into the practice, I want to just take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Irina. I'm an astrologer and I work with sensitive, intuitive people to help them develop and trust their intuition. So if we haven't met yet, hello, nice to have you here. For over 2 decades, I've guided people who feel deeply but struggle to trust what they're feeling. And what I've learned through my own journey and working with hundreds of clients is that the issue is rarely a lack of intuition. Everybody has access to intuition and they have intuitive superpowers. It simply comes down to signal confusion. And that's what we're going to clarify today. So now that we kind of got that out of the way, what I want to do is kind of break down and take a look at why second guessing even happens in the first place. So with the second guessing, you might notice that you feel deeply. Strong signals are coming to you, but you may not always know what they mean. You know, the butterflies in the tummy, the goosebumps on the arms, the constriction or contraction of the chest. I want to say it both together. But anxiety and intuition can feel very similar in the nervous system. And you might find yourself picking up on other people's emotions and mistaking them for your own. Many of us were taught directly or indirectly to doubt our perceptions, to be agreeable, to not make waves, to defer to someone else's authority. So the problem isn't really that you don't have intuition, is that many times the signals get mixed. There are 3 signals that many of us empaths confuse: fear, conditioning, and intuition. How can we tell them apart? All 3 can feel really, really real. They all can feel urgent, and they all can feel extremely important, but they're not the same. And what we're going to do is take a deep look at each of these today, because if you don't know the difference, you'll keep second guessing yourself. Fear. Let's break that down. Fear's loud. It's urgent. It says, do something now. It wants to be solved immediately. It contracts the body. You're tight. You might experience a tight chest, a tight tummy. It clenches. You get sick to your stomach. Your mind keeps going. And it's always almost future focused. It's not focusing on the present. It's like, what if this goes wrong? What if I mess this up? What if something bad happens? Fear wants certainty. It pushes, it pressures you. It wants a decision now. And because it's intense, sometimes we can mistake it for intuition. But that intensity, it doesn't equal clarity. The next one, and even before, actually, let me give a little example of fear and how it might pop up. Imagine that you're considering a job change, and within seconds, your mind jumps to the worst case scenario. Like, how will I pay my bills? Like, if I quit this job and I take this leap of faith, or what if I fail? What if this ruins everything? Many times that's kind of the fear projecting itself into the future. So you take a moment to just recognize, is this fear-based? Then we get into conditioning. This is the familiar voice. Conditioning is different from fear in that it's not loud and it's not necessarily urgent. It's the familiar, the comfortable. It's the voice that we've heard our whole life. It's learned the rules about who we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to play the game, and many times it sounds reasonable. Be careful. Don't do too much. That's irresponsible. What will people think? Conditioning is authority-based. It carries a tone of someone like a parent or a teacher, or maybe a culture or a belief system. And because it's familiar, it can feel like truth. But the familiar does not mean aligned. So for example, conditioning might show up where you might feel like you're called to speak up in a meeting, to say something that stirs within your heart, but immediately that inner critic says, don't draw attention to yourself. A moment like that would be conditioning. And next, when you're thinking about this, I want to invite you to think of fear as a pushing energy and conditioning as a persuasion energy. And then we get into intuition. Intuition is not loud. It doesn't push. It doesn't persuade. It's quiet. And it comes in what I call an indoor voice. It doesn't scream at you. It doesn't create panic. It doesn't rush you. It comes with love. And intuition never will scare you into action. Even if it's something that really needs your attention, it's going to be love-based. It's essentially guiding you away from something. Even when it's protecting you, it doesn't come with panic. It feels really steady. It might say something like, not this, or not right now, or slow down, but it doesn't threaten you. It doesn't catastrophize. It doesn't shame you, like, why did you do this? It guides without intimidation. It's consistent. The message may arrive in different ways, but the core never changes. Intuition also doesn't argue with itself. It simply knows. So, for example, when fear might have us saying and projecting into the future, what if this ruins everything? And conditioning says, you shouldn't do that. Intuition might simply say something like, this isn't right for me, right? It doesn't sound right. It feels off. Something smells fishy. Notice that. Those are little clues as to your intuitive gifts. Intuition is steady. Fear is urgent. And conditioning is familiar. And when we start to discern the differences and learn those subtle nuances, it changes everything. So when we look at these three things, it can be interesting to notice where things get blurry, where you might feel a shift and a change. First, there's this emotional absorption. Empaths seem to, I don't know about you, you can let me know in the comments if this ever happens to you, but if you walk into a room where there's been a fight and you just feel the energy, you feel it's off, or someone says, yeah, sure, I'll do that, but deep down inside, they're not going to show up, or this contract's going to fall through. It's not going to happen. If you're a sensitive, high feeler, most likely you're feeling more than just your own emotions. You can easily pick up on other people's stresses, their fear, their urgency, all without realizing it, and many times mistaking it for your own. The next thing is nervous system dysregulation. So our nervous system, many times as empaths, can get overstimulated. Everything feels urgent because there's so much data coming in that we're aware of, other people's feelings and emotions and thoughts. And often the body can't distinguish between intuition and anxiety because it's already on high alert. The third thing, old protective patterns. Sometimes what feels like intuition is actually a learned protection response. Your system recognizes something as familiar and it reacts before you've even consciously processed it. And then finally, over-identification. So you may identify so strongly with many of your emotions, your roles, your histories, that it becomes difficult to separate the signal from the story. And when the field is noisy all around us, we're getting all of this different data, the intuitive signal gets distorted. It's just hard to hear intuition in a noisy world. Not impossible, but we want to be able to practice, and that's part of what we're doing today. The problem isn't that intuition isn't there. It's always there. It's simply that we need to kind of reduce the noise around us. We need to clear our field, so to speak, so that we can connect with that intuitive guidance with greater ease. And then we come into clarifying the signal. So it's like, okay, Irina, great. You've told us the three top things right now about fear, conditioning, and intuition, how often those lines get blurred, and we need to know the difference so we stop second guessing ourselves. Well, how do we do that? Well, we clarify the signal, and we do that through a process of the root flesh fill. And now this isn't just a grounding technique, it's a signal clarification. And it's how we separate what's yours from what isn't, where you start to recognize, oh, these thoughts aren't mine. This feeling isn't mine. I've picked something up. It's how you calm your nervous system and you clear that absorbed emotion and reconnect to your actual inner guidance. You root, you flush, and you fill. 3 simple movements, but they can change everything. So let me show you what each one does. We're going to talk about the why it works before we get into the practice itself. Now, rooting. This is all about stabilizing your nervous system. Before you can trust a signal, your body has to feel safe. And when your system is activated, it's stressed, it's overstimulated, it's flooded, everything feels urgent. And when everything feels urgent, it's almost impossible to discern intuition from anxiety. Rooting anchors you back into your body, into your breath, into gravity, into the present moment. And it tells your nervous system, you are safe right now. And then when you're grounded like that, you're less likely to absorb everything around you, less likely to absorb the emotions, the thoughts that don't belong to you. And you can become more discerning instead of reactive. Safety is the foundation of discernment because intuition becomes easier to hear in a regulated system. And let's take a look at the flush. This is about if rooting is stabilizing your system, flushing is clearing the field, the energetic noise around you that's been distorting the signal. Now, as sensitive people, we don't just experience our own emotions, we tend to absorb what's around us. We take on the tone, the urgency, the fears, sometimes without even realizing it. And sometimes it isn't just someone else's energy. It can be our own inner critic. It could be those old protective patterns. It could be conditioned thoughts that aren't serving us anymore. And flushing is the intentional release of what isn't serving our highest. So think of it as like noticing what feels heavy, reactive, or even misaligned within your heart space, and then letting it move. This is a foundational practice, just like washing your hands. It clears what's ready to go. It doesn't mean everything might disappear in one pass, but it resets your field and it allows you to hear intuitive guidance with more clarity. You can't discern clearly if you're carrying what isn't yours or what isn't aligned. And that gets us into the fill. So finally, when we get to fill, we take a moment to say, okay, well, if rooting stabilizes us and flushing clears, filling restores. And why do we fill? Well, because nature doesn't like a vacuum. When you release what isn't serving you, you create space, and nature's going to want to fill up that space just like an empty countertop. Filling is your intentional choice. You get to choose what you are filling your energetic space back up so you can reconnect with your own signal. This is saying, I want to connect to clarity, to steadiness, discernment. It's not about forcing positivity. It's not about trying to be something we're not. It's simply about getting into a space of neutrality, getting into a space where we can really be in our heart and strengthening alignment with our identity, with what our heart loves and values, and to easily be discerning and not swayed because we remember who we are. You're reminding your system, this is what's mine. This is what's true. This is what I trust. And when you do this, the root, the flush, and the fill, you don't just feel calmer, you feel clearer. So let's put this into play. I'm going to talk you through a deeper practice with it. Some of you have experienced this before with me, but today we're going to go into a slightly more expanded version. And to begin experiencing this, I want to invite you to bring to mind a decision that you've been second guessing. It doesn't have to be dramatic, just something where you haven't had a lot of clarity. Maybe it's been noisy and you're just looking for some kind of guidance. And when you try to bring that decision into your heart and mind that you've been second guessing, notice what happens in your body. Do you feel a tightness anywhere? Butterflies, goosebumps? Do you feel a sense of urgency or confusion? Just observe. Don't have to have the answer right now. Because part of the root flush fill is also us remembering that we don't have to go this alone, that we are connected to the heavens above. We have friends in high places, that when we are in alignment with universal energy, that we're not trying to go all under our own will. But when we are creating in life or manifesting, it actually becomes a dance of co-creation. Breathe. Wonderful. Know that when you root, you're not just sending roots into the earth, but it really is about anchoring into the center of the heavens above and the earth below. Because we are spiritual beings having a human experience. We're not trying to transcend the body or this physical world. We're not trying to escape from it and become enlightened out of it. Rather, we're finding heaven right here on earth. We're experiencing bliss and joy. We don't have to escape the physical world. We're encouraged to inhabit it, to create joy, to bring love. And when we do this, we allow divine guidance to meet us here in a regulated, grounded system. So to do this, I want to invite you to imagine beautiful golden column of light coming from the very centers of the heavens, galactic star up there. And this beautiful column of light comes down through the clouds above, through our atmosphere, and it moves down through the crown of the head, down the throat, the heart, down through the solar plexus, the lower belly, down through the pelvic floor, between the legs, and down through 6 layers of earth. The topsoil, the subsoil, a layer of granite, a layer of fire, crystals, magma, to the very core and heartbeat of Mother Earth. So you are rooted in the heavens above and the earth below, and your breath carries you between the two. Beautiful. Notice anything in your field that feels very heavy. And when I say field, what I mean is that your heart actually produces energy, and it creates a field of energy all around you, anywhere from 8 to 12 feet in diameter. And if you use your imagination, you project your mind, and you just expand forward and out to the sides and even behind you, just notice, are there colors? Are there feelings? Are there thoughts? Are there emotions that don't belong to you? And without force, we move through the flush. Imagine flushing all of those things down to the earth. Release what isn't aligned. Release the urgency. Release the noise. And now fill. Imagine standing underneath a beautiful ray of golden sunshine. And this golden light simply shines down over your whole body and through that energetic field around you, the spaces that you've cleared. And so we're filling the spaces intentionally with this color and light that represents neutrality. So we're no longer reactive or charged to the situation or the decision. You're being invited to own your inner signal, to strengthen it. We're not looking for it to necessarily become louder, but for more clarity. Take one small breath. Beautiful. And then from here, gently come back into this moment. Wonderful. Notice what's changed. Recall the decision that you brought to mind at the beginning of the practice. And as you do so, does it feel that there's more clarity or that it's less charged? Did it soften any of the urgency? Do you feel more anchored in your body? Is that inner voice, that guidance, is it showing up as a knowing, feeling, a word, or even an image that pops into your head. You don't have to force an answer. Even small shifts matter. If something softened even slightly, become aware of that. If something shifted within those few minutes, whether it was 5 minutes or 2 minutes, what would that consistency create for you? We only did this one time. And I know for myself, I already feel more present. I feel like a lot of, the questions on my plate, the places I'm looking for guidance, I feel at ease. I feel a peacefulness. I know that I'm going to receive those little intuitive nudges and hints and inklings that you can think of as coincidences or synchronicities. I'll pay attention to them even more. And we did this very quickly, relatively speaking. You could do it even faster. And many times during my weekly show on Mondays, I go through this pretty quick. But it didn't take preparation, really, to do the root flush fill. We haven't even repeated it a lot yet. There hasn't been a great deal of work around it. But imagine what can happen when you do this on a continual basis. And with my clients, and they all practice this, it's one of my most requested practices to start to strengthen that intuitive muscle, because it really is a muscle. It's like every time you wash your hands, think about root flush filling, or when you take your shower, if that's in the morning or the night, because our energy field picks things up just like our hands pick up germs, or we do. And it's important to practice what's called good energetic hygiene. And the root flush fill is one way to do it. We don't just do it one and done and we're all better. But every time you do it, you make your field stronger and you become more present and less reactive. And rather than the energy hitting you and whacking you, whether it's a criticism or somebody else's emotion or feeling, it simply will go around you. So clarity stops being accidental. Intuition stops being happenstance and, luck of the draw. And it becomes something that you can really count on. It becomes reliable. So when we think about that work of consistency, the goal is to strengthen the signal. The goal is to be able to practice discernment, to regulate, to clear, to listen. And we do it not just once, but regularly, because it's through the repetition, it's through the noticing, it's through the refining, and sometimes even through feedback. We test out our theories that we can benefit from great perspective. But most importantly, that consistency and connecting with those little nudges and hints, those signals that are coming, means that you stop abandoning yourself and you stop overriding what you know. You don't dismiss that quiet voice anymore because something louder shows up. You return to it again and again. You start to be able to distinguish or discern what's fear, that false evidence appearing real. I know it's going to show up and it's going to be loud and impatient and scare me and rush me into something that I might not be ready for. Like decide now. And conditioning is going to show up like the voice of a parent in your head when you're trying to make a choice and go for something, or the voice of the belief system you were raised in, or the community, like, is that so safe? Are you sure you want to do that? Or, oh, what do you think? Things just fall out of the sky, or things just grow on trees. We fall into those old habits, but now we become more aware. We recognize that we might say prayers and we don't hear them responded to right away. We don't find the answers. But many times that's because the signal is noisy around us, not because the prayers go unanswered. I truly believe prayers are always answered. It's through strengthening your energetic boundaries, practicing good energetic hygiene with like the root flush fill, that intuition becomes trustworthy. And you can start to say, this is my gut knowing. This is intuition. I know it's not fear. I know it's not conditioning. I know it's not somebody else wanting me to do something. This is me. So If you are wondering what this looks like in practice and how to take it to the next level, the Energy Alchemist program and mentorship is something that I created where there is greater structure and support. And it's a place where I meet live with students, not just to talk about intuition, but to practice it. Live practicums where I walk alongside my students and I guide them and I give them feedback and I answer their questions. It's a place to receive guided regulation and really guidance on clearing practices like this one in real time. You're not all on your own trying to figure it out. Essentially, it is a direct mentorship with me, meaning that you don't have to just read a book or see a video online and try to reverse engineer things and figure it out. You get feedback, refinement opportunities, and even putting it into perspective. And it's a community. It's a community of grounded, thoughtful empaths. It's not chaotic or dramatic. It's very grounded and everything is structured. We don't just hope that intuition magically happens or that you were born with it or you weren't. It is about practice and it's about learning the exercises to do to help you build it step by step. So what happens when you stay with a practice? What can change? When you do this work, decisions do get cleaner, not because life gets easier, but because you're less entangled in fear and conditioning. Anxiety reduces, not because everything or nothing, I should say, not because nothing ever triggers you, and not because, life just is a piece of pie, but you start to recognize what's yours and what isn't. I was thinking like as easy as apple pie. Your boundaries strengthen. You become more discerning. I love that word so much because so many times we get upset and worried over things. People might be having a bad day and they take it out on us, or we might pick up on a thought or a worry and we realize, oh, that's not all mine. You stop explaining yourself so much. You stop negotiating your knowing. And self-trust, trusting your gut, becomes something steady and stable. It may not be perfect. We're always practicing, but it's stable. You can trust it. You still feel things deeply, but it doesn't put you into a spiral. Sometimes when we get energetically whacked, as I call it, it's really hard to kind of pick up and keep going. And how do we know we're making progress on our path? It's by how quickly we can brush ourselves off and get back up again and continue on the pathway of our soul's calling, really and truly. So is this a good fit? So the work that I do in the Energy Alchemist program isn't for everyone. It's a good fit for someone if they're tired of second guessing themselves, if they're very sensitive, but they're ready to feel steady instead of reactive. It's for somebody who is really looking for a mentor, not just more information. When I do work with my students, it's very personalized in many ways, even though we're in a group community and in a dynamic setting. I tune in and I tailor the practices for the people that I'm with. And this is something that is for someone who's willing to practice and who is open to the suspension of disbelief in the sense of, sometimes we say, wow, how can I pick up other people's emotions and feelings? Or, wow, how can doing something like root flesh fill really work? Well, it's giving it a try and it's taking note of what happens. And we do that consistently because it's through the consistency that we start to really see the buildup of the payoff. Intuition isn't built through inspiration and feel-good post. It's really built through developing a relationship with the way the messages are coming in, and it's built through repetition. So if this is something that's calling to you to explore a little bit deeper, I'm opening up applications right now. And this is an invitation. You can check out what it's all about. The website address is Irena Miller, IrenaMiller.co/apply. It's a starting point. I invite you. Check out what I say on the page. All the details are there about how to take your intuition to the next level and what the Energy Alchemist mentorship is all about. It's a way, this application, for us to explore whether this mentorship is even aligned for you. There's no pressure, there's no commitment. It's just taking a moment to figure out what the next best step is for you. So if you do choose to check it out, remember it's a starting point. It's not a commitment. It's not a conversation. It's simply that chance to see whether this is in your highest and best interest. And if it's not the right time, because timing is important, that's okay. And if it is, we move forward intentionally, but it begins with clarity. You don't have to decide everything in one moment, wherever you go. With this beautiful energy we have this week, I invite you, tune into your heart and the stirrings of your soul, because something is shifting for all of us as the energy is unfolding. So I'll take a moment just to pause. And if there are any questions that are coming up with the practices I shared or about my Energy Alchemist mentorship, pop them in the comments. And I want to say hi to Tisha. I'm glad you could be here with you. And yeah, and asking about Kundalini experience. So very interesting question. So the Kundalini energy, yes, I have worked with the Kundalini energy many a time. And that energy is the energy that is coiled at the base of the spine. And many yogis work with it. You have the masculine and feminine energies that you utilize to work through the energy centers to pierce the veils. And it's an awakening. And I had an incredible experience working with a very beautiful teacher and guide who helped bring me through that process. So yes, it's a beautiful one, and one that I would encourage is done under the watchful eye of someone who knows what they're doing, because it is the union of masculine and feminine energy and divine right harmony and balance. Beautiful, beautiful point. Love it. All right. So I invite you, check out irenamiller.co/apply. See what it's all about. See what stirs in your heart. You can fill out that application. There's no commitment, no obligation. It just opens a doorway for conversation. I look forward to seeing you again soon. I hope you have an amazing day. Please utilize that root flush fill. It does make a difference. It's changed my life so deeply and so many of my students and clients. And if this has been helpful for you, please do share it with a friend, like, subscribe. It helps out the channel so much, helps me out. And it also passes around a practice that has been very beneficial, that I hope it can be helpful for many others too. All right, I'll catch you all on the flip side. Remember, trust your vibes and follow your heart. Much love, everyone.